a diamond, and I am honored to introduce you to a very special speaker about a very special topic. He is Dr. Zoltán Szűcs, and what you have to know about him is that he graduated as a pharmacologist in 2003 from the University of Szeged in Hungary, and his specialty was natural treatments. He was very interested in pharmaconutrition, and in the last 10 years he's been studying cardiovascular diseases. He wants to introduce natural methods into all kinds of treatments. He is studying all the time, learning new things, and he's developing, as does medical science. He wants to see results and effective treatments. So the very first time I heard him speak, I was absolutely shocked and overwhelmed. I hadn't known him before, and when I was looking forward to hearing him, I was a little bit afraid to hear another lecture full of Latin words and expressions, and I was also afraid for my guests that they would be exposed to such a lecture. Instead, this was one of the best lectures of my life, and he could speak in a very clear manner, which was easy to understand, about a subject which was very important, and I'm sure that this will happen again. Today we are going to go into details about a problem which affects a lot of women, which causes a lot of inconvenience and pain, which is endometriosis. I also remember when I saw this diagnosis on web pages and so medical records. I was a nurse, and I saw this as a diagnosis, and at that time I was sorry for the women with this diagnosis, because at that time everybody thought that this cannot be cured, but today the situation has changed. So please welcome Dr. Zoltán Szűcs, our lecturer today. I welcome everybody, and I hope that everybody can hear me and see me well. So please give me some feedback. Okay, all right then. So what you could hear in the introduction, that I would speak about something which is very mysterious, and this is a complex problem which needs complex answers and solutions, and endometriosis is especially something which belongs into this category. So the first slide of my lecture is, you can see the title, Out of the Fire. Those who know me from previous lectures know pretty well that inflammation is always in the center. This is no coincidence. Endometriosis is no exception either. What's more, we can say that diseases of civilization contain endometriosis as well. Is a special form of diseases of civilization. All these diseases fall under the category of inflammation, and this can be scary, but my approach is different. we can say that we can use a lot of methods, a lot of approaches to handle this problem. There are many theories about what causes it and how to diagnose it, and the methods which can be effective in treating it or preventing it in the first place. I won't go into details about treatments, but I have to note that the way medical professionals see this problem is mostly focused on operation, and surgery is the only way to diagnose this problem when the surgeon can see the tissues which are affected. And I will speak about this a little bit. Medicine has very few methods and opportunities to prevent such conditions, but what we are going to focus on today are the risks that can lead to this condition, and how to handle the root causes of this condition so that we can prevent it. The first slide is about the progress or the evolution of civilizational diseases. I like to use this figure or this image because you can see how civilization has been developing and how humans have been developing. So the first 5 stages are a result of evolution, which took place over millions or tens of millions of years. And the end result of that long period was the human body, which can operate in full harmony with its environment. And the 6th on the right is what we can see today in a lot of cases, and you can see the diseases of civilization. So millions of years are in contrast with 50 or 70 years, the last 70 years, with a lot of changes. Over the millions of years, we have had many changes in our genes, and it was a slow process. It was the Ice Age, or it was climate changes. It was the changes in diet. But in the last 50 years, it was a very short time, and we could not adopt to unprecedented changes in the environment, in the diet, and this is the problem, this very short period of time, and this is why so many diseases of civilization have appeared in such huge numbers. And the key is inflammation, which is behind immune system problems, obesity, joint problems, diabetes, insulin resistance, which I'm going to talk about today as well, and stress and stress-related hormonal problems. Part of this is endometriosis. If we want to first talk about what has changed in this modern world, these are the impulses which surround us, which change our way of thinking, which create emotions. We are forced to experience negative emotions, which affect negatively our body. If we experience these negative emotions, trauma, chronic stress, and the stress hormones released create negative effects on our body. And this negative effect first targets our nervous system and endocrine system, but over time it will affect your organs as well. We cannot say which organ will be affected. It can be the liver, it can be the bile, it can be your stomach. It depends on which part of your body is weaker genetically. It can be your cardiovascular system, it can be diabetes, which has a genetic history in your family. But as a woman, this can be a female hormonal system as well. And now we are going to talk about proneness to disease. And in the 21st century, these chronic diseases, this is behind them. Such a huge amount of emotions, impulses, negative impulses, which we are exposed to these days, either interpersonal or something else. This is a constant source of stress. And until we can handle such stress, and psychosomatic problems appear immediately, which means that the mind creates diseases in the body. And if you can't handle your own stress levels, sport can do positive things, meditation as well, or yoga, or good company. These hormonal effects can be offset to a degree. But in this lecture, I'm not going to talk about stress. This is not our focus today. But in each and every case, this is a factor. If we look at endometriosis, exactly how it appears, or what questions we are looking for answers to, we can say that this is a very mystical or mysterious disease. We know very little about how and why it develops. What are the causes? It can be many, many causes. And these causes or risk factors can work in tandem to make things worse. So your endocrine system can be a cause, stress and hormones. There is a problem with our hormones, but not the hormones themselves, but the chemicals which keep hormonal levels high. If we look at it in depth, and we have already spoken about psychosomatic issues, this is very important. Stress as a hormonal bomb. You cannot really feel how stressed you are because everybody is, so you don't even recognize it. But hormones will be released, and there are studies which show this, and this can worsen your condition. If there is inflammation, and it becomes worse when your stress hormones are produced in huge amounts. Diet is also a very important factor. I will cover this in detail in the next 60 minutes, but this will be not enough to go into all the details. And we can say that everybody operates in a different way, where you live, how you live, but there are common denominators, and I will highlight those. We can simply say that this is a very complex problem, and so only complex solutions will work to counter this. Endometriosis affects almost 180 million women today. So in the age group 15 to 50, 1 in 10 women are affected. And this number is also scary. This is 200,000 women in Hungary only. In many cases, it is not recognized, goes on unnoticed, undiagnosed, because the person won't go to surgery, and it's not even known that the lady has this problem, because only an operation could uncover, reveal how serious the problem is. But if somebody has painful periods, not only after or in a teenager, as a teenager, or not only until she has her first child, this can be endometriosis in every second case. This can be something which affects very many women, and the causes which lead to diseases of civilization cause endometriosis as well. What are the symptoms? So when should I start to worry? Painful menstruation or periods, and if you don't have any other symptom but this, then it doesn't indicate endometriosis. If you have bowel problems in that your period, problems with defecation, urination, painful sexual intercourse, this can indicate endometriosis. Okay, now it's handled. There was a short problem with the interpretation, but now it's okay. Yeah, it's now solved. No, it's not solved. Still, we can hear the person. Now it's okay. So further symptoms can be nausea, mood swings, depression, so symptoms. I'm sorry, still there is another interpretation which we can hear. Okay, so it's not okay. We should handle this somehow. So where does it develop in the human body, and what is it? endometrium is the word, is the internal lining of the womb. So this is this lining is in the outside and inside the womb. This can be a chronic problem, tissue problem, and medical science sees this as a benevolent thing.
Ako vidíme, to môže vyvolať veľmi
figure. It's not only the female parts which are effective, the reproductive system, but the colon, small intestine can be effective. You can see this kind of tissue development, which is a kind of a tumor. So how can this lining of the womb reach the other parts like the colon? Inflammation can mediate and can convey these additional extra cells, tissues, and they end up in other parts of the body, which are closer in location. Anywhere in these areas, it can show up. That's why we can say that it can cause many types of problems and pains in those areas. When you see this image, we are always looking for an answer. We are always asking a question. So what is the cause of this problem? How does endometrium end up in those locations where it shouldn't be? The menstrual cycle is the key, because estrogen, the female, one of the key female hormones, you can see endometrium, which is the lining of the womb. It will make it thicker. So when estrogen levels increase, the endometrium will become thicker. And if this happens outside the womb, these tissues, extra tissues, will grow as well when the menstrual cycle happens. And as the estrogen levels grow, these linings and additional tissues will grow too. What happens with ovulation? Progesterone levels also increase, and when estrogen levels drop, this lining will be released when there is no so when this lining will be released from the body, so in the womb, the menstrual bleeding will not happen because it is outside. This lining is outside. This overgrowth is outside the womb, and the body cannot get rid of those extra tissues, overgrown tissues. So why is the hormonal system a problem? in women, we can see that in many women, estrogen dominance happens. It's also a disease of civilization. Why does the body produce so much estrogen? It can be a problem for men as well. Baldness and prostate problems can be caused by this. Why does the female body produce more estrogen? Because of the diet. In the next image, you can see if the estrogen levels are increased, even compared to progesterone, this leads to obesity, which also causes estrogen dominance. You can see cysts, myomas. Estrogen is a catabolic anabolic hormone which builds tissues, and it builds and builds and keeps building. Endometriosis is also being built. Tumors are being built. If I want to oversimplify, this is a tissue overgrowth tumor, which is benevolent. It won't be aggressive. It won't it won't attack other tissues or other organs, but until these high estrogen levels are present, endometriosis is a risk for those. There are foods in our diet, dairy products, milk products, raw milk, and the products produced from raw milk. Fermented dairy products are not so dangerous. Fermented products are better, which do not increase estrogen levels. Soy, some other legumes, gluten itself, and refined sugars, refined foods causes estrogen dominance. Obesity itself causes estrogen dominance. Nuts also can cause higher estrogen levels because they contain estrogen-like substances. I could say that you should avoid such foods. You can look them up on the internet, but there is a much bigger problem, which can be called the food industry and products, artificial products produced by them. And artificial is artificial. Plastic also, which is the packaging, is full of chemicals. Xenoestrogenic effect. Xenoestrogenic substances are not natural estrogen-like substances, which can trigger the same effects, and this is what is full of. So these are present in huge amounts in our foods, and this causes hormonal problems, imbalances for women and men as well. The meat of animals which were fed hormones and proteins, some proteins, especially soy proteins. Many foods are contain soy. So these products are produced by removing some proteins and then replacing them with soy proteins, which is very dangerous. So our diet, which contains a lot of processed foods and packaging full of xenoestrogens in bags and things like that, plastics, are a problem. Drinking water is very much polluted with these estrogen like substances. So a water filter is highly recommended because these can remove estrogen-like substances from drinking water. Changing your diet is key. As you can see in this image, we should highlight the importance of some foods which are very positive for our body. We always mention carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. There are lots of them in our diet, but the proportions are very important. You should avoid, if we talk about endometriosis, cereals, glutens, and allergens, because our digestive system will develop inflammation, and if there is inflammation in the digestive system, it will get into the blood and then into each cell in the human body, including this problematic location in the female system. I will also talk about some things that you should consider when you want to create your diet. I will also speak about deficiencies and diseases which come from deficiencies. A very key factor, I mentioned dairy products and plants with high amounts of phytoestrogens, which create inflammation in the body and raise your hormone levels. There are other foods like omega-6 fatty acids, which also create inflammation. These inflammatory processes, due to a high ratio of omega-6s, will make this tissue overgrowth even worse. Each woman with endometriosis has a very bad omega-6 to 3 ratio. Omega-3, on the other hand, has very beneficial effects because it puts out the fire, which means it decreases inflammation. Just a sec. And how it decreases or reduces inflammation, I can tell you. There are enzyme systems in our bodies which create from substance A, substance B. They can do this in many ways. Enzymes work, the same enzymes can work to produce different substances depending on what the so-called raw material is. Omega-6s and omega-3s are pretty similar chemically, but the enzymes which work with them will produce very different results. If your body is fed omega-6, these enzymes will create inflammation. if you consume omega-3s, then the same enzymes will create anti-inflammatory substances. So if your diet is high in omega-3, then the symptoms connected to endometriosis will be reduced. Omega-3 will be incorporated in your cells, and Zinzino's health program wants to supplement marine-based omega-3s. We do not want to concentrate or focus on omega-3 from plants, because when you do that, you will also consume a lot of omega-6. So how can you change your omega-6 to 3 ratio? With plant-based oils, you cannot change your ratio, while Zinzino's products will provide you with marine-sourced omega-3, which contain very little amounts of omega-6. I'm sorry. So here the ratio of omega-6 to 3 in the product is 6:1. So 10:1. 10 omega-3s are as opposed to 1 omega-6. So here the health protocol comes into the picture, and we can say that that the problem which comes from modern diet, which is omega-6 rich diet, every processed food contains with omega-6s, hydrogenized plant oils. These are all omega-6 fats. And this diet, this dietary problem, to offset, to balance out this problem, we can use balance oil. It's also important that substances which occur naturally, they are never alone. Other substances, chemicals are also present, which help, which work synergistically. In balance oil, we want to copy nature, because this is a synergistic blend, as you can see, of fish oil, which is rich in omega-6 or omega-3 fatty acids. They are in tandem with polyphenols from extra virgin olive oil. And you don't have to believe it, because there is a balance test which shows the result. If you start using the oil, you can see that your omega-6 to 3 ratio will change drastically for the better, and this proves that omega-3s will be utilized by your body and will be incorporated into your cells. So omega-3s will change your cells into better cells, and because this affects every cell, then your condition, your endometriosis, will be improved, and all kinds of diseases will be improved. But because we are talking about endometriosis here now, we can specifically say that we can reduce inflammation in that area, in the female system. That's why the endometriosis can be reduced, and your condition can improve a lot. You can see the nutritional value table that balance oil contains a lot of omega-3 fatty acids, EPA, DHA, and the balance test can prove that your body will actually make use of what you consume. Essence is another product which is for those who don't like to take oil and prefer soft capsules. It also has a lot of antioxidants, polyphenols, and high in omega-3. Has the same effect as balance oil. Let's move on. When we say that we should follow a diet which is full of anti-inflammatory substances, then we should speak about polyphenols, orange color substances, carotenoids, flavonoids. These are chemicals which stop free radicals, and the free radicals are the ones that cause oxidative stress. CRP is part of standard blood work. This is a protein. If this is high in your blood, then there is inflammation in the body. We don't know where, but if you use anti-inflammatory substances, antioxidants, and omega-3, the things that you can see in this picture, CRP will be reduced. And this combination of anti-inflammatory substances will reduce inflammation proteins, and this will show up in your blood work. This is the last thought about diet. If we want to find an approach to diet which is capable of reducing the body's hormonal and the new thing, insulin response, then we should remove refined carbs, processed carbs, gluten-based, cereal-based products, and all kinds of artificial things that you can possibly remove from your diet, and try to eat only natural raw foods as much as you can. High quality fats which contain a lot of omega-3s, foods which contain a lot of enzymes, quality proteins. If we are talking about endometriosis, then you should avoid red meat, but you should concentrate on berries, but you should also concentrate on some nuts, because they have enzymes and coenzymes. These can be beneficial. Soy and legumes should be removed. And very, very high sugar content fruits, these are natural sugars, yet they can irritate your digestive system, and so you should only eat a little of them. This is the ketogen palate diet. This is a pretty good general approach. Endometriosis is a special thing, but as a general guideline, you can follow this kind of diet. The next question: what else can cause endometriosis? Insulin resistance, the environment that we live in is obesogene, environment, which means that it makes you fat easily because it's full of sugars, refined carbohydrates, which raise your blood sugar very quickly. All processed foods contain sugars. It doesn't matter what type of sugar. What does matter is whether your body can give the proper insulin response. Insulin must come in the picture because high blood sugar is bad for the body, and so the sugar must be removed from the blood as soon as possible. So insulin opens a receptor on your cell, and your cells can use the sugar to produce energy. This is the normal process. But if the sugar is too much, then a lot of insulin must be produced, and your body keeps producing high levels of insulin, which is very which stresses your body. Diabetes is a condition where your pancreas cannot cope anymore. Blood sugar cannot be reduced. It's always high. You can see the increased hormone level. The result will be type 2 diabetes, but obesity is also here, and also the precondition of endometriosis. You can see detoxification disorders, tumors develop. Insulin, in this respect, is like estrogen. It's an anabolic hormone. So the overproduction of insulin, which is a precondition of diabetes, will make you fat. If you start to become fat, what happens is that your blood sugar is high and your insulin level is high, and this is constant. A lot of sugar, a lot of insulin, and your body can store sugar. There are sugar stores in the body which are full, and then the body will produce fat tissue from the sugar in the blood, and that's how you become fat. If your insulin level is high, because it raises the amount of inflammation substances in the body. It's an ever going anabolic process. So high hormone levels, it disturbs your menstrual cycle. Estrogen levels are high. And this goes hand in hand. So insulin resistance and obesity are simply a risk factor of endometriosis. Insulin resistance will cause other disorders in your diet. It will create sugar dependency, because we don't have enough time for that, but sugar cravings will create another vicious cycle which will affect your period negatively. The next question is, so what else can cause endometriosis? This is a very scientific thing, but I cannot skip this part. So the key MTHFR, this is a metabolic problem. It's a disease, a disorder. I can say that modern diseases. So with people, in people and in the whole population, people who are on the modern diet has a deficiency. So this is an enzyme, I would say. This enzyme is responsible for processing proteins which we eat. Methionine is an amino acid, and it's responsible for processing an amino acid in the body, which is important for the body. So what happens to methionine? We can produce it from all kinds of proteins. It becomes into homocysteine, and the enzyme and these amino acids, it also needs B vitamins. It becomes into various other substances. If somebody has a deficiency, which means that doesn't have enough MTHFR enzyme, which is the case in 30% of the population, and also if this is combined with poor digestion and the deficiency of B12 vitamin, this homocysteine will be increased in our blood. The most important thing about it can cause very aggressive inflammation. It has to do with plaques in your cardiovascular system. It has to do with endometriosis as a form of thickened lining of your womb and in other places. So through the blood, it gets to each cell and creates bad inflammation. So if this enzyme is missing, or if vitamins are missing, what is the result? And why am I talking about this? Because there are many people affected. This can be tested in a lab, but normal tests won't show this. Folate cannot be utilized in this case. Their gut flora cannot convert folic acid into folate, methylfolate. So this enzyme would be necessary for this process to happen. And if your diet, and also if you have dietary supplements containing folic acid, there is a huge chance that it won't do anything good for you. But methylfolate is a substance which can be utilized readily by your system, even if there is no enzyme like that. So this metabolic process, in this process, homocysteine is not increased. And if you also supplement with vitamin B12, then, and this problem affects 30% of the population, this inflammation cycle can be avoided. Vitamin B12, I would like to say a few words about. So this vitamin, in order to utilize this vitamin, it needs other things. There is vitamin B12 in these foods. Red meat should be avoided because endometriosis, in endometriosis, this is not beneficial. So what do you need for the utilization of B12? For example, you need intrinsic factors, stomach acids. If B12 can be utilized, then it can be stored in the liver. But in the process, 4 or 5 barriers can stop it from being utilized and then stored in your liver. The enzyme that I mentioned is one of them, or its deficiency. Folic acid deficiency and deficiencies of other B vitamins can be a problem. Complex problem, complex solution. Extend is another product. You can see all these vitamins. You can see folic acid. And if you look at it, you can see this form of folic acid, which is the active form, which is an active ingredient. You can see B12, good amount of it. Also, there are antioxidants and all kinds of polyphenols, carotenoids that are necessary. The enzymes, in order for them to work, need all kinds of micronutrients, trace elements, zinc, molybdenum, chromium, copper, and so forth. Here you get everything. So Extend is a product which can counter deficiencies fully in a complex manner. Beta-glucans, I don't want to talk about. It's an immune booster. Extend or Extend Plus, these are twins. This is important because I could suggest that you should try to get all these important nutrients from foods, but this is not easy. You know that this is tough. But if you take 4 capsules of Extend Plus or 4 tablets of Extend, then you get the necessary amounts of these nutrients, micronutrients. The last subject is digestion itself. We have covered stress, we have covered hormones, estrogen dominance, insulin resistance, and the anomalies which are the result of diet, obesity. We have covered vitamins and vitamin deficiencies and genetic enzyme deficiency, because this is genetic. But there are more enzymes which can cause problems in the gut as well. All substances which are to be digested but aren't actually digested, which doesn't get through the digestive system and cannot be broken down, it will cause allergy. Protein, you get proteins, hamburger, fats, proteins, carbs. There is the saliva, there is bile, there is pancreatic enzymes and digestive small intestine. Help you break down your nutrients, your macronutrients. But if your diet contain a lot of estrogen-like substances, substances which cannot be digested. A lot of undigestible proteins, trans fats, hydrogenated oils. These are not things that you can digest. The human body is not ready to handle these substances. These are some kind of substances which overload the system. If somebody doesn't produce enough hydrochloric acid, stomach acid, then certain nutrients cannot be utilized. And if somebody's pancreatic enzymes are weak or not produced in sufficient quantities, then your gut will be full of substances which are not digested, and this results in inflammation in your bowels. This can be labeled in many ways, but the key point is that there is inflammation which will cause symptoms, and the inflammation will make some linings of your colon or small intestine too permeable, and which will cause toxic effects. It will make your blood toxic, and then this will create all kinds of problems everywhere in the body. So this is why the digestive system is mile zero when we examine the problems. If your digestive system works inefficiently, then your brain will also work inefficiently, and this will create negative emotions as well, good mood, but vice versa. Negative emotions affect your digestive system negatively. When you are very stressed, when you are exposed to a lot of negative emotions, then your digestive system is the first place that should be helped, and then your mood, your emotions will be better. When your gut flora works well, then the nutrients that you take can be utilized. But it's a good question. Do you have a good gut flora or you don't? Or those nutrients which your body would need can only be utilized if your gut flora can work well. Magnesium, calcium, iron can only be utilized if your gut works well. So what you should do is that you should have a good diet which contains prebiotic fibers. Prebiotic fibers or dietary fibers are fibers which are not the classic fibers which everybody thinks of first, which have defecation. These dietary fibers are the food for your gut bacteria. And unfortunately, this is missing from the modern diet. So xenobiotic, if you take 1 cup of xenobiotic, which is about 6 grams, it contains 6 dietary fibers, which can be utilized by different sections of your intestines. So this is how they can multiply, and they will take over, and bad bacteria will be reduced, which boosts your immune system. Healthy gut flora and healthy digestion will minimize inflammation. So I would summarize what I have been talking about in the last 60 minutes. The point is, endometriosis is a very mysterious disease, and we don't know why and how it develops. We know the symptoms. It's a syndrome with many symptoms, but we don't know the cause. I would suggest all lectures are a reflection of the lecturer's views, and I would say that there are many possible causes. There are relationships between estrogen dominance and dietary problems, omega-6, high omega-6, gut flora problems, genetic enzyme deficiencies or lack of enzymes. And if these risk factors are removed from the formula, or you seek a solution which removes most of these factors, and you use the products which are meant to handle deficiencies, then you have done a lot to handle this condition, to prevent this condition, so that you can avoid this diagnosis. If endometriosis has already developed and there is a diagnosis, these overgrown tissues can only be removed through surgery, but you can curb the problem. You can curb further overgrowth. So the medical treatment, which is surgery, can be a solution. And if you prevent further overgrowth, if you don't have a diagnosis, if you don't have this in your body, you can use these preventive methods that I have been sharing with you. There is science behind this. There is proof and evidence behind this. And I would say that these links are known, and I'm sure that there will be further developments in medical science. I would say that this has been a little bit tough to cover this in such a short time. The last thing that I would like to share with you is the Dalai Lama's thoughts about prevention. So what is the way of thinking which you can use to prevent diseases? I would like to quote the Dalai Lama. When asked what surprised him most about humanity, he answered, man himself in the 20th century and how they think, because he sacrifices his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he's so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. The result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he never going to die, and then he dies as if he had never lived. just think about this. You can always start preventive steps. You can always start now. Yesterday is impossible and tomorrow is far away in the future. So I wish you good health and thanks for your attention. Goodbye for now.